Okay, welcome back, everybody. I am here with JP, and we're here to discuss all things Star Wars. So, JP, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Kyle, for having me. These interviews are always a lot of fun and get a lot of information from it. So, this one's going to be really fun and exciting. So, I'm ready to jump in.
Okay, so give us a high-level overview of what you have seen the past month with the group, with the graded group, because there's certainly plenty of activity going on.
There are, I mean, it's just overwhelming how many people are just joining the group and really getting in to get their feet wet. A lot of people are becoming just really experienced at it. As you can see, more and more people are showing off their stuff, doing a lot of showcasing. A lot of stuff's hitting eBay. And just to let all the members know, if you want to either sell or auction on our group, you're welcome to auction off on our group. And we even have sniper rules. So if somebody comes in at the last second, the auction can run a little longer, and you can decide those settings to your auction. But the really big topic is how many people have joined since like March. We had just like we hit like 500. And since then, just over the past 2-3 months, 74, 75 people have joined the group. The group is really starting to take off. I feel like over the past couple of months, I haven't really been out marketing it in the other Star Wars groups of saying, hey, come check out the sister site. So it's just been a lot of people really jumping in and sending a lot of stuff off for grading. There's been some good grading specials.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I see it too, and it's certainly from discussing with everybody else around. It feels like this is one of the most proactive, active, discussion based, involved groups that I've seen and are a part of. I feel like I can check it daily. There's always new discussions and topics or things posted up for sale, or like a shock and awe sort of thing of like, oh my God, look what's posted, for sale. It's really exciting, actually. Kind of makes it crazy, really, if you think about it, because at least from what I've seen, like it used to be, the occasional PSA 9s or 10s just kind of hang out here, and maybe one or two people are interested in it. But now, like, there's like a war going on to get these, and it's driving up the price, and it's like there's no freebies anymore. You might slip through something with a 7 or 8, get it really cheap, but once in a while. But even some of the mid-level grades are going and getting competitive bids, because some people just want the slabs, or they want to potentially complete a line of things where it's just important to have them. And it's been really interesting.
It has been. It's a testament to people's collections. As the years have been going on, I didn't know what to expect or what direction the group was going to take, and I didn't know so many people had such high quality cards. I mean, your guys' collection out there is just amazing me. I think we just had one just over the past week or so that came back like it was a Death Star 10, and I mean that's a super hard card. That card's nothing but black, and just to find one scratch or ding or something on it would be so easy. And so I'm just seeing how there are so many great collections out there, and you guys are just doing a great job of picking the right cards to send off for grading and doing a great job with inspections too. I'm seeing less and less people coming back talking about how terrible their grades are. You guys are getting really to the point where you're experts and scholars at it. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, it's funny because I think about, well, okay, I guess I need to put another like highlighted video, maybe like what are some good processes to go through the card, but then somebody will leave like a detailed comment or point a direction to another video. Be like, oh, okay, like it's already done, like it's already been answered. Like I don't have to jump in there. Like somebody's already done it. But I can tell you a magnifying glass that costs no more than like $10-15 with a light on it that maybe has like a ruler measure so you can see how off center things are, or like the higher degree magnification in there. And a microfiber cloth certainly will help, prep your cards or get the kind of light dusting that sometimes pops over cards to really see if it's scratched or if there's just something sitting on top of the card. So far, it's been pretty good. Now, I will say there's still some cards that slip through the cracks. Sometimes they come back and you're like, what? But it's really just kind of one-offs. It's not like a whole slew of disasters. It's usually just like, okay, for some reason this one card didn't make it through. Um, but yeah, it's fantastic to see the involvement and the fact that there are good cards and we're seeing just a wide range of stuff. Also means like I've seen collectors who are like, I want 1 through 10 and the grades. I want poor through excellent on a certain card, just kind of oddball stuff. And that's why like that lowball category we've done in the contest, I think deserves to be there because sometimes it's fun to collect what's on the bottom. Maybe it's hard to get a specific number. If you were trying to just get exactly a PSA 3, like that could be really challenging, right? Like because you don't want one that's too damaged, it's gonna get low or high, like so that could be really random and difficult. I mean, is it worth much? No, but it could be fun.
Right. And it's your collection, however your collection is. I know Brad out there, all he really does, he just grades Star Destroyers. That's the thing. Not even just starships, just Star Destroyers. So every time there's one out there, he just wants to get it. And when people post a showcase, he's the first one. Hey, you want to get rid of your starships, your Star Destroyers? I'd like to get them. So I mean, that's pretty specialized. But yeah, I mean, aside from every grade, but there's people that just want everything graded of one thing. And you know what? You start asking for those sets in the registry, you're going to have quite a collection and be the number one for those sets too. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
So registry. So you brought up something that's been kind of on, it's certainly been on my radar, and I'm sure it's been on your radar and probably other people. And I don't know if it's been discussed as much, but are you like me, like refreshing like the PSA page like daily to see if they've updated more Star Wars CCG lists in here? Because I'm like, how long does it take? Like the last update took like a month and a half almost, it's like super long. And I know they probably have a crazy backlog, but like I know people have a bunch of stuff. Like as soon as some of these sets pop up, they're going to like start filling in, real quick. So have you found out anything about that or?
Yeah, well, I have a direct line to the supervisor at PSA, and I've been talking to some folks at BGS, and they've kind of got their registry shut down for a little while too. But PSA, I don't want to abuse that line of communication with the supervisor because she was so helpful for us of getting it started, and she was so receptive when she wanted to know what the checklist looked like. Where do I find the official checklist? So she has the official Star Wars CCG Decipher list. One of her last communications was she's just going to start at the top and just start adding the normal checklist. But again, each series and expansion, that's a whole complete set. There's everything else. And like, Kyle and I, we talked about we're going to be doing Jedi packs and some of the smaller things, the anthologies. So you can have whatever you want too. So as you're submitting, they're supposed to be putting out all of the expansions, all the premium cards, all the little sets. And, I know all they have out there right now is the tournament foils that are specific for the CCG. But there's a few people in our group that have been able to take their graded CCG cards and apply them to other Star Wars registry sets that don't specifically pertain to that. So it's really something that you could take upon yourself to reach out and say, hey, I've got all of these characters with weapons, Darth Vader with the lightsaber, I got Han with a blaster. And you can just say just those characters with weapons, and they'll create that set for you. But again, they're still shut down. And I'm telling you, you're right next to me. This is another Jedi pack that's ready to go. I'm driving me crazy. I can't wait till they open it up.
Well, they have opened. There's Tatooine is in there. Reflections 1, 2, and 3 are in there. So, part of me is like, well, while I wait, I might as well try and fill in some of these. But, I don't know. Some of those cards are more difficult to find, especially with the foils. It's like, oh, this could be brutal to find, all 9s and 10s of these foils because you could submit a bunch and you're going to get a lot of 7s and 8s just because they're scratched foils. Or I've gone through stacks of foils where I'm like, I don't want to submit any of these. Like, I just don't think they're going to be 9s or 10s. Like, it's not going to be worth it. But they're great looking cards. But like, as soon as you look up close, There's like,
Beautiful.
so they're perfect for like completing a set somewhere. Somebody with the naked eye is happy with it, or playable, whatever. But to grade, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. And I'm going to end up with a stack of 7s and 8s and be annoyed about it. So
It is, and that's the risk with the foils. I think I probably say it in every interview, is that even though it's got so much eye appeal, and Decipher did a great job with how all the foils look, is that there's still things on there you're never going to see. Some of these grading techs, they just know what the foil lines look like, and when it's not a good foil card, and it's very frustrating for me sometimes too, because as I inspect it, I'm like, I still don't see things they're going to see, and it's not going to come back in high grade. So I'm still slowly walking through foils, but at the same time, I'm getting the rest of the sets completed and have no trouble with non-foils, and that's keeping me sane.
yeah, they're certainly easier because you have to look at them in all different kinds of lights or black lights or stuff like that. And you're like, oh my god. And my question, I don't know if you've noticed this or thought about this, but you know how like a lot of the reflections foils have been part of the like Wild Things games, like after the fact, cut up and distributed for like completed very rare foil sets or completed foil sets. Um, I'm trying to get to the like I'm trying to sort out if the reflections foils out of the packs are better centered, better cut, better quality than the ones that were cut after the fact. Not that I can figure that out just from looking at it, and I'm not saying like all of them, but I'm starting to wonder if the stuff that comes out of the packs has a higher likelihood of being better centered than the stuff that was bought out from Wild Things games and distributed afterwards.
I would say it's probably got a better chance of being centered coming out of the packs. I know there were a lot that were just miscentered, that were off center, but for the most part, I'd probably say about 70 or 80% of my collection is centered. Even though there's that variety, the other 20% is just horrible. And occasionally you get some of those that are just so miscut, it's got another card on there, and those are the ones that Andy Talaga wants. But how many times has it been handled? When Wild Things got their hands on it, and just the off center. I mean, a lot of their stuff is off centered. I bought a lot from them, and just knowing that their percentage is probably much higher. The late cuts, but I haven't really looked at that. I feel like I had already gotten my whole collection, and I rarely go out to buy more to replace stuff. But when I do, there's I'm looking for the most perfect card I possibly can, and the best way to get it is right out of the packs, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of what my assumption was. I mean, there's also technically there's not really like a shortage of very rare foils for reflections. So kind of like with the majority of the tournament foils, there's still a lot of them out there, and there's still large stacks of those, even unclaimed at this point, whether they're for sale by Wild Things or somewhere else. And I'm keeping that in mind. I think that's part of the reason I'm like still going back and forth of whether I personally want to continue to pursue reflections. But I also think back to kind of what Mark keeps harping on, which is the eye appeal of foils is just they're interesting to look at. They're neat to look at, and even if they're not as rare as your Japanese wampa or something, like they're just more appealing for the general collector, since they're going to have more mains that are at prices that are not at non-foil main prices, for stuff like that. So it makes it more attainable and fun.
Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly too. So it's just going to be, we're at the point where it's going to be hit and miss. Everybody's become better collectors. They become better inspectors. And I hope, like you were showing off your magnifying glass, I have jeweler eyepieces. I've got other tools that kind of help me. And I've been doing it for a while. I mean, I used to grade gaming cards, so I know kind of what to look for. But it's gotten to the point now where we've taken it a step further. It's got so much more to it, and you're really trying to find the most perfect cards. So I love where we're going.
What have you seen? Like, or in speaking like I'm trying to think in terms of like expanding outside of our usual echo chambers and circles. For example, like I went to the Philly card show, which is one of the larger non-sport card shows in the area, and they had maybe like 40 tables and stuff, and they do have a good amount of Star Wars tables. There were a few Pokemon, some vintage stuff, a lot of Garbage Pail Kids cards, but the Star Wars CCG stuff, I didn't see anything like that out there, and even less so of graded Star Wars cards, which I thought was interesting. And maybe that's just more niche, but I was trying to find my like an entrance point into getting slabs out there. Like I brought a bunch with me, but ultimately I ended up like trading, buying, selling, dealing with like some tops Star Wars stuff because there's just more of that and then people are more familiar with it. But have you found any outlets for like where potentially Star Wars CCG graded cars could potentially go up for sale, be of, on display, or, just getting it out of our echo chamber a little bit because obviously it's growing within our circles, but I'm curious to know how it's going to expand out of that.
Right. And I've been looking kind of in the Missouri area. I know St. Louis and Kansas City is going to be having some cons coming up. I know Springfield here, there's two of them that are going to be coming up this fall. And I'm thinking about just planning on having actually a Star Wars CCG group table, and that's all it's going to have. It's going to be a lot of my slabs for sale and for trade, and just to kind of showcase it. I used to get vendor booths all the time when I was in business with Black Label
Yeah,
Grading.
that's right. Because you had the comic shop, right, or the card shop.
So yeah, well, there was a card shop before. Now I did this out of my home. Was Black Label Grading, but I would get the booths, the vendor booths, and I knew both people that were coordinating and running these cons in the Springfield area. But if I can get out to Kansas City and St. Louis or meet up with some folks that are in the group, if somebody wants to sit in the booth, we can maybe get a couple of days and start. It's got to start somewhere, and as fast as this is growing, I'm telling you, 75 people joined in the last 2 months. So just somehow people are hearing about it, and I know it's social media and it's just stumbling upon it, but until you get it in your hands, and a lot of people go to these conventions, go to these cons, that it may be a good starting point, and maybe wherever you're from, you get out to those cons and start showcasing it and get it out there, or get a booth, or start selling your stuff if you're looking to sell. These are the people that are going to be looking at it.
But do you have to be like running a business, like a card business, to get a booth? Like, do you have to register as like an LLC or like as a
Some of them you do. The one con required me to have my business license, and so it was my LLC name plus my tax ID number. And the second one wasn't. The second one is just called Game. If you didn't, because a lot of people just had booths selling like things that they were making, some crafts of, and they were drawing their own comic books. They were just doing it out of their home. So they come around where you can actually apply for a vendor ID, a temporary vendor ID to sell your stuff, provided that you would pay taxes, and that's all that it was just a kind of an honorary thing. But I know today they'll probably be asking for, your tax ID number if you happen to have a business or LLC. But you can also just use your social security number too. That should be okay because you aren't in business, but you're selling something.
Yeah, I'm thinking because I've asked other people about this before. Sometimes it's difficult to open a booth just as one person, but if you found like two or three other people with stuff they had to potentially sell or put out there, then you have yourself a pretty strong booth of stuff because you want to certainly display stuff, but you also want to have enough options where if people kind of ask for stuff, like you might have some interesting items. Like do you have like the glass cases where you like put stuff out? Like
yeah, so I didn't have any glass cases. I had glass cases in the sports card store, but I didn't even know whatever. I just left those with the store. They give you like two tables, and sometimes the vendors that are next to you, they didn't even show up. And sometimes they'll either offer it to you for free so you can expand out and have like 3 or 4 tables. or really it's plenty of room because people are just going to walk by and they stop and just kind of see what you got. But everybody that's there is interested in kind of that convention feeling, the con feeling. So you're going to have people go, "Holy cow! I didn't know that they were that worth that much money," and I think I got some in my garage. I never had any trouble getting good booths with good visibility. It is a pain. Sometimes you're sitting there for 2 days and you want to get up and look around and do things if you're by yourself. I know I had a lot of interest for the black label grading. I had what I call vault cards. So these were just a showcase. I never traded them or sold them, and I had every kind of gaming card at the time, all graded, X file cards and everything. So it was everybody's interest, and there was like 3 or 4 of everything. So I literally had about 500 graded cards that were just out, and people would find something of their genre and go, "Holy cow! I used to play that game. I have all those Marvel cards that we played with. I can get them graded." So it was for everybody. It wasn't just Star Wars cards.
Yeah, that's really awesome because I think that's important that the game gets out there, and I think with some of the flashy slabs, like having them in those cases, like for people to see and walk by, like people will stop and be like, "Oh, what is this? Like that's cool. Can I check this out?" Be like, "I kind of like that. Like, how much is that?" Like I'd love to be able to put a few things, extras, slabs, or especially getting with some of those HGA custom slabs too, and get a variety of stuff out there. That would be so much fun. Like that would be so cool because it's hard to do that when none of the tables have that, but you have that kind of stuff potentially to trade or sell or make deals with when there's nothing there like that. But if you're going to have that unique booth, like surely you'll get interest, especially if it's like a larger con. Like the Midwest has a pretty strong like card collecting fandom. When I was in Ashburn asking Richie Parsons, because he sells a lot of cards out in Ashburn, and I was like, we should open a table, share a table, because he's got so much product to sell all the time. And even if he's selling sets or individual cards, we could get slabs in there. I was like, at the least you'd get people coming out and checking it out. If there's like one of those places where there's like 35 to 50 tables, like that's a pretty decent size show. This isn't like someone's backyard garage sale. Like you're going to get people coming through. It's just that like niche of the non-sports cards. Because if you're trying to go to like a sports card show, that's like a totally different thing, and they're just people just take over. You're going to get kind of drowned out in all the sports noise. Between
That's
some of
usually the case. It's getting bigger and bigger. So sports cards are back, and they're bigger than ever. There used to be a big rush back in the mid '80s. Trying to get all the older stuff. And then as kind of the next few years went on, everybody got in it and just turned it into a disaster. And then everybody got out because it was just so overproduced and they were using such poor quality. And there wasn't really anybody big in the game aside from maybe like Ken Griffey Jr. and a few other superstars. But now it's just riddled with so many superstars and stories. Aaron Judge is breaking home run records. And so the cards now are so good quality for sports, and now everybody's in it again. But I'm also finding I haven't seen this many people that are interested in non-sports cards. And just slowly looking at groups and joining a few things here and there's thousands and thousand people that are just interested in, so many other things outside of what we're dealing with, Star Wars CCG, that are non-sports cards that, man, it's like their life. The Star Trek side of it for Decipher, man, that whole site, those people are, constantly chatting just like our group and taking care of each other. So
yeah, Star Trek and Lord of the Rings, I've started to see some of both of those games have slabs. So they're maybe like a couple years behind. I am seeing them pop up more and more, which was just non-existent, a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So I think that's really interesting too. And maybe that's a larger trend. Like you were saying, I'm pretty sure, didn't PSA like a few months ago say like non-sports cards have exceeded submissions more than sports cards or, at some point. So, I mean, probably a lot of that has to do with Pokemon, but Pokemon's like crazy overprinted. Like it's not rare at all in the slightest. It's just people are talking about it. this kind of has that mix of rarity and eye appeal. Whether you play the game or not, it doesn't
True.
really matter because most people collected it. But
Well, look at the specials. There's been like 3 times the amount of specials for TCG cards and trading
Star Wars
cards.
special they just had.
And the Star Wars special. I mean, that speaks volumes. I mean, we had to play a little part in that, the way we push and the way we were in communication with them, and just knowing that there might have been like a few hundred submissions, and now there's thousands coming in groups of 20 to 100 cards per submission. They
I
can't ignore that.
Like 200, 300 cards in the last month.
Yeah, it's only good business to recognize that trend and to say, hey, we're going to throw a special, take a few bucks off, and then everybody loses their mind and they're like, there's a niche here. There's actually some kind of a group of people that are going to generate money for the grading services, and hey, we help build that. So that's what we're all about.
I feel good about it. I'm also very excited to watch the population reports evolve because it's giving us a better picture of, the quality of certain cards and the difficulty of grading certain cards, like you had highlighted before, like the Death Star, some of the foils, the Endor dark side foils. Talk about trying to get a 9 or 10 out of those. Like that could be a holy grail. Like if you found one. And that would definitely take like, a top grade rarity sort of niche there. So I think that's really interesting for the super fans too. Before we wrap up, I want to talk about our May contest that we had in the Facebook group, which was super exciting. We had a great showing, and this is just the first month we were getting kicked off. So May was aliens, and we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different submissions. And this was really exciting to watch, and certainly a nail biter to the end of who our winners are. What were your thoughts on the contest? How do you think it went? Where do you think we're going? What did you think about it?
I loved it. I say we keep it going. It keeps showcasing people's stuff that they may not want to showcase. And I love the 3 categories that we've got for top, unique, and low ball. So I'd say let's keep it going. Let's see how next month rolls out. And if something interests you over the year and in a couple months you're gonna nail it, we'll hang in there because we're going to have a competition every month.
So next month will be June. It's red cards only. So anything graded as long as it's a red card. So that could be an interrupt or effect. We want to see those effects and interrupts. All right. So for our low ball category, we only had 1 submission, but it was a fantastic submission of Cheap Chirpa PSA 2 and Boba Fett PSA 2 Auto 9, John Guzik. Congratulations on the low ball winner. Fantastic category. I fully expect to see more low ball categories as we go forward. Do not get rid of your worst submissions. Save them for the low ball contest. So that was awesome. Our next, for unique pair, we had 4 submissions for there. And our runner-up is JP with the Ponda Baba Beckett 9 and Dr. Eva Zam Beckett 9. But our winner is Connor Nolan with the Chewbacca PSA 9 and Neum Num PSA 9. Connor, good job with that. The Neum Num really sold me on that one.
Me too.
That is a really funny card. So awesome job with that. All right, and now for the top category, I'm going to let JP announce this if you think you can. The runner-up for the top card category, Brian Emery submitted
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Wampa PSA 10 and Wampa Japanese PSA 9. So that was awesome submission. But our winner is JP.
Colt Driver
with the Boba Fett Bounty Hunter PSA 10 and the Darth Maul Young Apprentice non-AI PSA 10. Great job with that. Super nail biter there. Where it really came down to was population reports, top pops, and general rarity of these cards. those are what put these over the edge. So congrats to both of you. So all the winners, congrats. We will post up the names on the Facebook graded group, and we will stay tuned for the upcoming June competition, which I'll send out all the competition thread things you need to know about that. Thanks for stopping by, JP. We will touch base, of course, on the Huge, but by next month as well. Hopefully we have another great contest to discuss. Thanks, JP.
All right. Thanks, Kyle.